Either you or Dr. Dipper.
Not that I recall, according to this.
Do you recall what you meant by your head back on straight?
I don't recall.
And then Mr. Depp responded to you. You see in the next row. Did you recall receiving that text from Mr. Depp?
I don't recall. No, I don't recall receiving that.
You wrote that note?
According to this, yes.
So if you've been following the Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial whatsoever with the defamation case, you've probably seen the day 4 nurse's testimony where pretty much every single question she was asked, her answer was,
Not that I recall.
except for these tiny little random nuggets of information. It was dreadfully boring. Literally, she said,
I don't recall.
To absolutely everything. The internet was very frustrated with this, understandably. I actually got to join a live stream. I will leave it linked down below. Alito with Legal Bites talked all about this. She's streaming the whole thing if you want to go watch it. I got to talk on there a little bit, but I felt like I needed to stand up for nurses because there's a reason why she kept saying,
I don't recall.
it's a great lesson to all future nurses, all current nurses. I wanted to talk about it really quick, just give you a little bit of insight in why she said that. She wasn't just being boring. She does not have like dementia or something that's causing her from remembering these things. And kind of give you the insight of how we are trained as healthcare providers to approach witness testimonies or whatever these legal things are, just like this, because you're coached on it, friends. You're coached on it. And she did exactly what she was supposed to do. Why, hello there, friend. I'm Liz, a family nurse practitioner on a mission to make healthcare education and information more accessible through the power of YouTube and sarcasm. Why? Because our healthcare system is broken and we all deserve better. But to fix this problem, we must first understand it. So go grab your sassy feelings. I certainly will bring mine, and let's learn together. Hello, everyone. Welcome this lovely nurse to our chat. She's a nurse practitioner and she works in addiction medicine now, which is a field that we need so many more people to work in. So go nurse, go you. So if you're not familiar with this case in general, here's like the super too long didn't read version. Johnny Depp was married to Amber Heard a wee while back. Amber made some allegations about Johnny that Johnny says were not true. It then tanked his career and has caused lots of people to be angry with him. He says none of these things are true. So now they are in like a 6-week long battle to kind of duke it out. It's a civil case. They're basically he's trying to clear his name and she's trying to say like, no, I didn't. He is suing her. I think she's also somehow suing him. It's a hot mess. The nurse plays into this because she was a private duty nurse. They were like, it's a concierge medicine thing. And she was the nurse associated with it. So she was there when he like got his finger chopped off and was tending to him during what was he doing? Detoxing off of opiates, I think. That's how she was involved here. So she's getting pulled in as a witness. She has all of her notes and we will see. I just want to point out really quick the few things that she does that you would be trained on to do as well if you were ever called as a witness in a medical capacity. I have been not trained, but like there was a point in time when I was going to maybe have to go into court. And so I was given advice from legal counsel where I worked, and they literally said to do exactly what she does. Let's use our first example. And the first thing, so I'm not a lawyer. Don't take this is not legal advice. This is just like something I thought was interesting to comment on from a nurse's perspective, since it's in the news right now. So always get a lawyer, friends, and don't take my advice here. But the very first thing that they had told me, and that they must, like other people must have told her, is you never admit to anything that you just refer back to your notes essentially for everything. So if they ask you a question, you don't say, oh, so you had this patient on this night and this and this and this happened. You wouldn't say yes. You would say, my notes, according to my notes, yes. So again, we're going to want to document everything, which makes it harder when we're in a time when it's hard to document because, we have a lot of patients. But let's just get an example of that real quick.
The next day you met with Mr. Depp in his apartment. Is that right?
According to my notes, I don't recall.
Okay.
So this is setting the precedent once again that she's saying, yes, this is what I wrote in my notes. Notice her notes are all very objective. Met with the patient at his apartment. Patient continues to be pleasant and cooperative. Like they are very like, this is what I'm seeing. This is what I'm stating. So she's going to go on and say this over and over again. This made the people in the comment section very, very frustrated because pretty much everything that was not in her notes that they asked her was going to be, I do not recall. And if it wasn't her notes, she was going to say, as my notes say, or that's what my notes say. You are essentially told, at least in my experience, that if you do not have it in writing in front of you, you do not recall, unless it was something that sort of didn't have anything to do with the exact situation. If you were like, hey, were you actually in this country? You could be like, yes. You're not going to be like, no, I don't recall. Right. So situational things you can kind of allude to. However, anything that has to do with your practice, you're not likely going to admit to if you did not actually write it down. That's why they harp on you to document, so that they can later you can rely on that versus having to rely on your own memory. We see this has been recently with the Redonda Vaught trial. She was unable to, she didn't stop, she didn't document. And this became a huge problem as we saw in the trial later. If you want to see my coverage on that, I will leave it linked down below. But her entire testimony was based on what she remembered because it was not documented. And you can see where you can easily, the court, this nurse is not on trial for herself, but in the Redonda Vaught case, the court did not look favorably on her and they charged her criminally because her testimony, like, because she hadn't documented, versus in this, where this nurse, again, not Apple, these are not in any way, shape, or form the same cases, but this nurse was able to just say, hey, this is what happened. It made it very cut and dry and easy to understand. So that's why always you're going to hear people pushing for documentation and to only really read your notes and not give any additional information. Along with the I do not recall, this is going to be one of two parts. You legitimately may not recall. You may think you recall, but your memory might be fuzzy. A lot of these things that you're then getting called in for are things that happened a really long time ago. Even the best healthcare professional, we're not going to remember like super accurately, like that exact one situation that happened way, way, way back when. So if you've had any doubt about what maybe is true or not, the answer is always going to be, I do not recall. I was personally told that pretty much anything that I, like I said, didn't document was going to be, I do not recall, unless you could like, hey, did you work at this hospital? Yeah, you probably are not going to be able to get out of that. So there were a lot of conversations about like, oh, are you perjuring yourself by saying that you don't recall all these things, or wow, she's so useless. In reality, she's defending her license and her credibility, because if it came out, she doesn't want to say anything that then people could twist against her, right? She's not even restating what happened in the document. She's just agreeing that yes, that she wrote that. And that's a lot of apparently what they will end up doing, is just verifying like, hey, you wrote this. And then you're like, yep, I wrote that. In addition to this protecting you from any liability, right? Because then they can't twist your words against you. This also makes it so that you're seen as like a confidential source, which would be important, especially in this nurse's line of work. She's being told things like, if you're working in, you trust your healthcare providers, you tell them things you normally wouldn't say. So her not giving up any additional information can also benefit her in terms of like just professional courtesy and decency of not sharing, oversharing anything. Patients would then be able to come and know like they can trust her. She's not going to tell all their secrets. This would be especially important in her line of work, which seems to be like providing these like services to high profile clients where discretion is probably very favorable. That's just a little tidbit on why the nurse probably said, I do not recall so many times. And that's what my notes say. It's not because she is dumb. It's not because she doesn't remember. She probably doesn't remember incredibly accurately. However, it was really just what we call like CYA, cover your ass documentation and tactics there, where if you didn't document it, it didn't happen. And that was like the actual implication of all of this. There were a few things that she did talk about, but if you like, she had a few things where she was like, oh yeah, we were together, like Johnny and I were here, and then Amber came up the stairs. Those were things that didn't have to do any way, shape, or form of her nursing duties. So she did speak a few times on those. She was a witness for Johnny's case, I believe. So she's going to probably be more favorable to him. So she did speak on some of those things, but do note when she did, it, again, had nothing to do with her own nursing practice. So that's why this nurse kept answering that way. It wasn't that she's incompetent. It was incredibly boring, but healthcare depositions and things like that are incredibly boring, because literally all it is like reading notes and then people saying what happened or didn't happen. If it wasn't documented, it didn't happen. And there we go. Unless, of course, you don't have documents, as we saw in Redonda Vaught's case. So hope that cleared a little bit up. I needed to stick up for my fellow nurse. Thanks, as always, for spending a few of your precious moments with me. I hope you have a beautiful rest of your day, and I will see you next time. Bye.